In the beginning, there was nothing. No spirit, no life, nothing. Then 3 golden goddesses descended to our world. Din, the goddess of power, Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, and Furor, the goddess of courage. With their divine powers, they created our world, our lives, and the laws we uphold. Once their task was done, they left our world for the heavens, but left behind 3 golden triangles that embodied their divine power, and created a goddess to watch over them. Little did the goddesses know that these 3 triangles, that would soon be known as the Triforce, would cause the world misery for the next millennia. Eventually, demons arose from the center of the earth, and war raged out over the possession of the Triforce, the leader of said demons being the Demon King Demise. While Goddess Hylia was able to defeat Demise, it would be thousands of years before her chosen hero would win the war. However, with Demise's last breath, he uttered out a curse. "I will rise again. Those like you, those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. An incarnation of my hatred shall ever follow your kind, dooming them to wander a blood-soaked sea of darkness for all time." These few words are what led to the people of Hyrule's suffering, but this is a story we all know. And here we are at Breath of the Wild, the latest game in the Zelda timeline, where the curse is still very much intact. While in most Zelda games, Link has been able to defeat Demise's incarnation before he destroys the kingdom, in Breath of the Wild, while the land is still called Hyrule, the kingdom of Hyrule no longer exists. And while Link and Zelda ultimately defeated Calamity Ganon, the real threat is still out there. And while I'm sure defeating Ganondorf will be the main goal in Breath of the Wild too, but ultimately that doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, as long as the curse is intact, Ganon will always rise again. Hyrule is doomed to a future soaked in blood, because eventually both Link and Zelda won't be enough anymore, and Hyrule will one day truly fall. There really is no hope for Hyrule's future, unless somehow our heroes are able to break this curse, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today, trying to figure out how to break this curse and how to set Hyrule free. Just a disclaimer, I'm sure that other creators have made videos like this before, and I am in no way, shape, or form trying to steal anyone's ideas. I'm simply bringing my own thoughts and speculation to the table. And if you are still interested in this subject after this video is done, I suggest that you watch other creators' videos on the topic and even do your own research on it. You're probably sick of hearing me ramble about this for so long, so let's move on to the subject at hand. There are 3 factors to destroying this curse: the incarnation of Demise, the descendant of the goddess Hylia, and the one who possesses the spirit of the hero. If we could remove one of these factors, could we destroy the curse? Removing Demise from the equation can mean a lot of things. The first option is simply killing the Demon King reincarnated. This would not work. Link has killed Ganondorf before, and he just came back. The entire nature of this curse is that Link and Demise cannot die. They would simply reincarnate. So let's move on to the next option: taking the Demon King's spirit and sealing it away or destroying it. Whilst this is a pretty interesting idea, this also sadly won't work. This has to do with the nature of the curse. The Curse of Demise was very specific when it came to how it works. It includes the bloodline of the goddess, so anyone who's a descendant of Hylia, the spirit of the hero, Link, who was cursed so that a spirit would always possess another person, so that they would be forced to fight evil again. But when it came to how Demise is affected by this curse, he doesn't say incarnation of his spirit or incarnation of his soul. He specifically says an incarnation of his hatred. In other words, this hatred he's referring to will possess another being, forcing them to be Demise's successor. And hatred is something that is eternal, something that only grows with time. So in other words, to break this curse, you can't focus on Demise himself. You have to put your attention elsewhere, which leads to our second factor. Unlike Demise or Link, Zelda's role in the curse is actually very simple. As long as they're a living member of the royal family of Hyrule, a hero or villain will soon follow. So if you were to sever this bloodline, by extension you break the curse. So in other words, if Zelda chooses not to have an offspring or dies before she can, the curse would be lifted. Looking at all the princesses across the timeline, they are all very different, but they all have one thing in common. They all want what's best for Hyrule, most of the time. Now, some of you might be surprised that Link is here on the list, but there is a very good reason why. Let's start with option 1, simply killing Link. I think at this point by now, it's pretty clear that killing Link would only result in him being reincarnated later in the future. The Downfall timeline is living proof of that. And Hylia makes it clear that Link's spirit cannot be destroyed. So that's it? The only way for the curse to be lifted is by Zelda dying? Well, that's what I thought at first. At Toteno Village, you can find a statue called the Horned Statue. This statue gives you the opportunity to sell spirit orbs and buy them back in the form of stamina vessels or heart containers. But interestingly enough, if the player tries to trade for less than the base level of stamina or heart containers, the statue will refuse, saying that taking any more will temper with Link's essence. What if this is how we can break the curse? What if we were to sever Link's spirit from his body and seal it away? Because if his spirit cannot possess another body, then Demise's hatred can't be reborn either. And we've seen time and time again in this series that souls can be taken away and tempered with. Now, one thing I had to consider is, could the gods select another spirit to be the new spirit of the hero, like they did in Wind Waker? And my answer to that is no. You see, in the adult timeline, the hero of time left. It wasn't until Wind Waker Link proved himself to the gods that he was chosen to be the new spirit of the hero. In the scenario I just pitched, where we remove Link's spirit, his spirit would still exist in whatever timeline this is in. It just isn't possessing anyone, which is part of the criteria for the curse. So if you ask me, this would be the best option. This would defeat Demise, and while Link would also be in a sense dead, he would die fulfilling his purpose as a hero, leaving Zelda to lead the kingdom as her rightful heir. But the question is, what would happen to Link? Would he return to a dormant state, or would he have a much darker fate? And how much will Zelda be willing to let Link sacrifice for her? Now, I know what you're thinking, but if Link dies, there will be no more Zelda games. And to that, I say, as long as the games bring in money for Nintendo, there will be more. Whether if it's somewhere earlier in the timeline, or in a completely new Link that's not connected to the others with completely new evil. Keep in mind, this is all my interpretation of the curse, and you may not view some of the things I mentioned in the same way, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, I encourage a healthy discussion on the matter. I simply ask that you be respectful in the comments. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and remember, our parting need not last forever.